Before we begin, we want to share a content warning. This episode of Ghost Tracks explores death rituals, historical burial practices, post-mortem photography, and themes surrounding grief and mourning. While nothing in this episode is meant to be sensational or graphic, these topics may be emotionally heavy for some listeners, especially those who are grieving or have experienced recent loss. Please take care of yourself while listening and feel free to pause or step away at any time.
Every place leaves a trace. Every moment echoes. And death leaves the deepest tracks of all. We are your hosts,
Tina?
and Molly. Today on Ghost Tracks podcast, we're following the marks left behind by the dead. Not the kind that show up on an EMF reader or thermal cameras, but the ones carved into ritual, memory, and grief. We're talking about death rituals. When they begin, how cultures across the world honor their dead, which of those rituals are still practiced today, and why in modern society we've become so uncomfortable with death and with the people left behind to grieve. Long before ghosts had names, humans buried their dead with intention. The earliest evidence of death was over 100,000 years ago. Early humans laid bodies into the earth. Neanderthals buried their dead intentionally. Bodies were laid carefully, graves were marked, they sprinkled them with red ochre. I was looking at this word, I was like, ochre?
So did I.
Ochre?
Was like, I kept trying to say okra.
I was
This is not okra.
I was saying okra in my head. But ochre? Ochre just came out, so I guess I read that correctly. Anyhow, it was symbolizing blood, life, and rebirth. They placed tools, flowers, and offerings beside them. This wasn't disposal. This wasn't fear. This was recognition. These early humans understood something we struggle with, that death wasn't absence. It was transition. This is where the ritual began. Not in fear of death, but in the need to make sense of love continuing without the body. The first death rituals were humanity's way of saying, they're still with us, just somewhere else. In ancient Egypt, death was a doorway, not an ending. The body was preserved so the soul could return to it. The Book of Dead was a survival guide for the afterlife and was buried alongside the deceased, filled with spells and instructions for navigating the afterlife. I actually have the Book of Dead.
Did you?
Yeah.
I do not have a Book of the Dead, but I've always been, I think like most people are, fascinated with the Egyptian culture and the way that they honored their dead and celebrated them and how much care was taken in laying them to rest. Cats, guys, cats.
We do not need to be burying any cats.
No, or ourselves. That he just tried to burn the whole place down.
Let's burn it down, burn it to the ground.
He said, "Happy New Year, bitches."
Okay, yeah, we don't need a fiery furball. Okay. I do agree with the whole ancient Egypt. I've always found it so fascinating. Even the Book of Ra, I love that whole philosophy.
I think maybe it just goes to say like something about who I hang out with as friends, but all of my friends, everybody that I've ever known has always been like that was one of their favorite subjects in like history was the Egyptians.
That's actually the only time I ever paid attention in class was that and the Renaissance. Like when we did the whole medieval and Renaissance era.
Yep.
I paid attention to those. Civil War, although now I find it interesting. So what they did after they buried, before they buried, they actually would take the heart out and they would weigh it against a feather. And this was symbolizing truth and mortality and determining eternity. They wanted to see how They want to see how heavy the heart weighed against the feather. And here's the thing, while mummification is no longer practiced today, the belief that the dead must be honored, named, and remembered never disappeared. Because in Egypt, the forgotten was to die. To be forgotten was to die twice. Get it?
You remind me of that movie.
What movie?
Coco.
Oh,
Y'all, if you haven't seen Coco,
well,
and here in a minute we're gonna get into Mexico. But if you
I,
haven't seen Coco,
that's a good
yeah,
movie.
they did. They died twice when no one was there to talk about them anymore. Remember them. I love that.
I'm gonna have to watch that again.
I love that movie. Makes me cry. Everything makes me cry.
Mm.
This is the downside to recording downstairs. There's critters everywhere.
Mm-hmm. We have to be on our A game. We don't burn the house down. So in Tibet, high in the mountains of Tibet, the dead were offered to the sky. Sky burials involve placing the body where vultures can consume it, not as cruelty, not as punishment, but as generosity. The belief is simple. The body is only an empty vessel. The soul has moved on, and feeding life is the final act of compassion through nourishment. And yes, sky burials are practiced quietly and less frequently due to modern laws and environmental concerns. Because, yeah, I get it. You don't want a bunch of dead bodies out there.
I don't know. Have you ever seen some vultures? They pick it pretty clean.
I saw some pictures.
Yeah.
I saw some pictures and I was like,
I have
you
seen.
cannot unsee this.
I think sky burial is fascinating. I guess coming from, Western culture, we're like, ew,
Yeah.
why would you let that happen? And I guess that's probably like my initial thought is to be like, ew,
Mhm.
why would you do that? But it is, I mean, I think all cultures are fascinating. And I think we can learn so much from every culture. I
Yes.
mean, I know America is a melting pot and, we come from all those backgrounds, but when it comes to traditions and stuff, we really, as Americans, don't hold those anymore.
No.
It would be so different if we did practice the cultures from which we came from. Like, I'm from Scotland. Like, my grandmother, they still, celebrate burn supper and stuff. And she has her poppers and the hats at
Yeah.
Christmas time and all of that. But, like, I've never done it with my family.
No. I get into a little bit of a tangent here after a couple of these. But yeah, that's something that I've been thinking about too is, in America, we're so many different cultures, you know, and so I wonder if like with America itself just never developed its own and like
I think people came here with a dream, but also I think they were running away from all the things that were broken
yeah,
in the places that they came from. And by forging and moving forward to try and be better and make the almighty dollar and have all these things that they may not have had.
yeah.
And they lost themselves
Mhm.
along the way. And it's just kind of trickled down their family lines as they go.
I mean, if you kind of think about it too, they were all about erasing
Yeah.
certain cultures
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
They came back. They didn't care. They didn't care about continuing on tradition and stuff like that.
Well, I care. I
I
wish
care
I
too,
had
damn
them.
it. I care too. And actually with Tibet, they weren't even like the first ones to do the sky burials. Um Persia.
Oh, were they?
Mhm. The Persians actually were the ones that influenced Tibet to do sky burials, but, they're also not continuing on with that tradition. But for those who do continue the tradition, death is not hidden. It's witnessed, it's honored, and it's shared back with the earth. In this ritual, death leaves no ghost behind because nothing is unfinished. On to Mexico, which, in Mexico, they do things a little bit more fun. It's more of a big celebration.
I absolutely love Dia de los Muertos. I love the Day of the Dead. I think it is one
Mhm.
of the most beautiful celebrations that is held. I love watching the video. I would love to go down to Mexico during that celebration one year.
Yeah.
I would probably cry the whole time. I'd be in such awe of how they celebrate and honor the people that have gone before them.
Yeah.
So,
They celebrated it a bit in Louisiana too.
mhm,
I just didn't participate because I had other stuff going on, but I thought it was pretty cool.
yeah.
Well, in Mexico, the dead don't haunt the living; they visit them. Dia de los Muertos,
Dia de los Muertos.
Dio Dio de los Muertos, um, is still celebrated every year. Altars are built by the families. They place photos, favorite foods, drinks, and personal items of the deceased onto tables. Candles are lit, marigolds were placed to help guide the spirits back home.
Mhm.
Food and drinks are prepared, and the dead are invited back. There's grief, but there's also laughter because here, death isn't separation, it's continuing the conversation. And now we move into the Victorian era.
I was probably a Victorian child at one point, and I would be mourning forever in my black clothes. I could get with that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure
Just
anyone that
drape
knows me
everything
could
in
see
black.
me marching around in my Victorian morning gown.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You hear that, Jean? You would be covered.
Well, when I organized my closet, I
Color-coded my
color
closet.
coordinated it. It just helps me when
Yeah.
I'm putting clothes away. And I'm like, okay, you're gonna go here. But yeah, a good majority of it's black.
Yeah.
Not only because it's my favorite color, but I was an esthetician and a tattoo artist, and black clothing kind of was my work attire
Yeah.
for a very long time. Well, in Victorian England, mourning wasn't rushed; it was ritualized. Grief was visible. Widows wore black mourning clothes for years. Children wore mourning bands. Homes were draped in black fabrics, and time slowed down. A lot of them would actually stop their time because they didn't want to. They didn't want the living and the dead to exist in different.
Mhm.
Um, but the two practices that stood out because today, they feel unsettling. Mourning jewelry. Victorians created jewelry using actual hair of the dead. The hair was braided, woven, or coiled into rings, brooches, necklaces, and
You
lockets.
know, there is a lot more of that now. I know a lot of jewelers, I follow a ton of jewelers that will take either the hair some women send in, like, their breast milk from, like, either the last feeding or if they lost their baby, their colostrum, they'll
Oh,
send that in with the ashes of their child, a locket of hair, or, the placenta, like, a piece of the placenta of their cord, and they send them in, and they have those turned into stones for their
oh wow.
rings and stuff. But no, I see a lot of that now, and they do it obviously with, like, pet remains. So I think it's fascinating. I love watching those videos. Hi, Toast. Yep,
No toast.
Molly has a cat.
Yeah, he's trying to be sneaky and get over here, have access to this. I have seen where they take ashes and then can turn them into diamonds.
Yeah,
Oh, and blown glass. I think that's
yes,
so beautiful.
yeah,
I actually wanted to,
or put them in your tattoos.
yep, those.
He's like, "What do you want?
The only the
Trying to
only
get
the
over
only
here."
thing about the whole, tattoo part of it is that the ashes they do settle to the bottom of the ink cap, and so it's more of the,
The
ritual
ritual
of
of it.
it
Yeah.
and the remembrance, but the likelihood that the ashes, they don't they don't mix in with the
Yeah, I could see that.
cat. For those of you that are not watching and just listening,
There is a
I have a
feline.
cat behind my head trying to get onto the table that we have like
Candles.
7 candles lit.
They're all being menaces today.
If I pick him up, he's gonna grumble. There's no
Yeah. Bye, Toast. Okay.
and the hair would be preserved behind glass. So hair doesn't decay, so it symbolized eternity. You don't you didn't hide your grief back then. You carried your dead with you, you touched them, you remembered them, and you wore them close to your heart. Photography was a rare and expensive. Since it was rare and expensive for many families, the only photo that they would have with their family would be taken with the dead. These postmortem photographs, they would take the deceased ones, they would prop them up, they would lay them down as if they were sleeping. If they were propped up or held up by loved ones, they would paint their eyes,
Mhm.
eyelids. They would paint eyes onto their eyelids. I had also a long time ago also seen that they would pin them. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I've seen ones where their eyes were pinned open. And this wasn't to deceive anybody and make them think like that this person's alive. It was just, having their loved one there meant a lot to them. Um, and these photos to them, they weren't morbid. They were proof that love still existed in the room. This practice faded with time, but it tells us something powerful. People once needed proof that love didn't vanish when life ended.
And that's actually something that's coming back too, is postmortem photography.
Hmm.
I have seen, I'm in a lot of death groups on Facebook and like macabre groups and the morbid and, like medical, morbid, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of people on there do. They take photos of their loved ones during their wakes and funerals, and they'll put them up there to share, um, just as a memory of them and how they were loved and how they'll be missed. And I have seen in those groups people ask if there are like for people that are terminally ill and they know they will be passing away, if there were photographers that would be willing to come in and do
Mm-hmm.
postmortem photography for them. A lot of people do that with their stillborn. Um,
Yep, I have seen that.
yeah, they come in, they'll have a photographer that comes in and they dress the infant up and pose them with mom and dad and in their bassinet and do some outfit changes. There's actually, and I didn't know this until probably about in the last year, there are chilled bassinets that you can take home with you from the hospital. They will release the body of the infant to you, and you're given a it's chilled bassinet.
Yeah.
And that way they can carry their child and spend time with them.
Um,
And they have, I think, about a week,
oh,
a couple days to a week with the infant at home so that they can kind of
yeah.
grieve that and have that time and not just automatically have to the baby passed and,
Yeah.
have to whisk it away. So, um, that's becoming a lot more
That's
commonplace, but
good.
I had no idea, like, we have it at the hospital that I work for.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, when my grandfather passed away, I believe it was my grandma that called me. Uh, that's a whole other story. I'm not gonna get into why and go. But she was telling me because my uncle was a mortician. I'm not sure what he's doing now, but he her my grandmother said that he made him look, you know, pretty good, and then my dad took photos
yeah,
of him. And at that time, I was young and I was a little put off by this. It took me a long time to get comfortable with the idea of death
yeah,
and understand death, and it was always hard for me to find the right words to console somebody.
yeah,
Um, but the older I got, the more I realized that, life should be celebrated
yeah,
and death shouldn't be as fear, the next stage.
right,
But it's hard because you miss that person, you miss their presence,
yeah,
and it can be hard to move past. Um, and today, death is handled so quickly, quietly, and professionally. Hospitals, they call the number. Bodies are removed almost immediately. I'm glad to hear that they're starting to change that,
yeah,
especially with the infants. God, I'm sure that's really hard. A service is scheduled and life is expected to continue. Grief leave is minimal. They should be allowing to give people more time to grieve, especially from work.
Yeah.
Just the other day you were talking to me about how, um, depending on who passed away, it determines how much time and that your job will give you.
Yeah. Many companies will have like, and I don't know for sure, but I'm just kind of spitting numbers here. But I know that like if it's a grandparent, you might get a day or two. If it is a parent, you might get 3 or 4. If it's a child, you'd probably be lucky to get a week. Like a spouse would probably amount to the same time. And I don't know. Like for me personally, I'm like, I don't know that I'd ever be okay again if I lost my husband or my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how could anyone put a time frame on that grief uh, for me? And then to just be expected to, like, for say one of my kids, like I literally created, birthed, and raised those kids. How in the hell are you going to tell me that I only get a couple of days and then I'm supposed to, you know, I'm expected to show back up and do life like they did not exist
Yeah.
ever.
I mean,
Like, I just couldn't.
how did we go from the Victorian age where you
Right.
get the women where for years,
Years.
for years they get to mourn, to now it's just like your time is cut short and you're just expected to put on a smile.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
like
Clean it
go,
up, buttercup.
like put on your customer service voice. You have to deal with the public. You can't bring home to work with you and you can't bring work from with you.
Yeah.
Um, I just don't get it.
Don't
I
either.
don't know how we ended up here, and I hope that maybe are we desensitized?
Probably a little bit. I mean, you got to think too, like what social media has done to us. I mean, it brings all of those things right to your front door.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we're looking at it day in and day out. And I'm not one of those, oh, the movies made them do it. But when we're seeing those things in movies and now, it looks so real.
Yeah.
And there are some movies that are so like such mind fucks.
Yeah.
You don't know whether it's real or not.
I mean, when you look at television,
Yeah.
television, you're literally being programmed through your television. I have a lot of friends actually that have gotten rid of their TVs because they don't want to be quote unquote brainwashed anymore
Yeah.
or
I don't blame you.
basically programmed on how they should be thinking, and they're a lot happier.
Like I watch, TikTok and like reels and stuff every once in a while,
Yeah.
but I don't really watch a whole lot of TV. It's
Mm-mm.
it's rare for me, and I don't watch the news because I just,
Yeah.
you know,
I watch a
there's
lot of YouTube. I just watch silly stuff on YouTube or documentaries or stuff like that. Or Stranger Things. I'm obsessed with Stranger Things. And then like a lot of things I do watch, I repeat
yeah.
because it's
Yeah,
like
I have
Friends.
comfort
If I'm
shows.
trying to fall asleep, I'll throw Friends on because I can watch it with my eyes closed because I've seen it so many times. For Harry Potter, just stuff that I've seen like over and
I'm a
over and over
Will and
again.
Grace person.
Yeah. I just find that it's harder to watch newer things that I haven't seen.
Yeah.
Don't let him fool you.
Look at that cute little face
Yeah,
back there.
don't let him fool you.
He's not doing nothing. Look at him.
Yeah, except 5 minutes ago, he bit me on the back of my
Oh, she's lying. She's telling stories.
Yeah,
He didn't do
I have
nothing.
proof. I have proof.
He was
You
standing behind
you
you.
even admitted
I did
that
no
you
such
knew he
thing.
was gonna do it. You cannot fool anybody.
Toast is a naughty boy. He has big feelings and he is not afraid to tell you about them.
Mhm.
He's flute. He's got his
Uh-huh.
he's got his oh no, you don't like that. You only like to do that
Oh.
on the floor. He's something else.
Well, a lot of another thing that happens, like, after somebody passes away is you don't see a lot of people sitting we sit with the dead. We don't touch them as much.
No.
We don't speak their names after so long. It's just kind of like the memory fades. We don't let the grief reshape us publicly. Just like I said, we're supposed to go back to work and put on our customer service face. And, is that a lot of times what happens is that maybe some of us don't want to feel like we're a burden. We don't want to lay our, grievances out there, or maybe just a lot of people just can't handle hearing it over and over again because it makes them uncomfortable. So this actually reminds me of a Bosnian coworker that I used to have. When her mother-in-law passed away, um, she told me about how, you know, she's like, I gotta go to my mother-in-law's. I'm gonna wash her body. So they wash the body and then they do something with oils, and then the family members, they sat with her for a while. And it made me wonder, as time went on, most of us Americans have lost cultures and rituals. Yeah. When it comes to celebrations, we have two ends of the spectrum. We have, the over the top birthdays and Christmases we prepare and put on this big show to gain attention from, which has made it lose its meaning. It's lost its meaning. We are celebrating things for the Instagram photos. We're celebrating things to outdo last year's big celebration. When it's like we're celebrating life. We're celebrating, Christmas time is supposed to be family time. And, if you're religious, it's supposed to be celebrating, Christ's birthday, if you believe in that, or like for us, Yule, yeah, celebrating winter, which is the death, Mhm. Or so that life can start anew and spring comes. When it comes to death and funerals, many struggle on how to process it. So it doesn't get spoken about enough. People need time to grieve and mourn their loss. Also makes me think about something I watched today of Kelly Osbourne. People are picking her appearance apart. Oh yeah, picking her apart because she's lost even more weight. And she basically had to tell them, "Fuck off! My dad just died. Let me grieve." Um, and I think it's really fucked up. So Ozzy hasn't been gone for that long, and they're just expecting, criticizing. Well, she's not eating because she's so depressed. She says basically it's a miracle that she can even get out of bed. She goes, I'm sharing my content with you guys, and you're picking me apart from my experience. And the fact that she can even put makeup on, put her clothes on, and be present for her family, that should be enough. Just leave her be. And fuck off. Fuck off. Fuckers. Fuck off, fuckers. There tends to be this trend going on where, and I've thought about this for quite a while, where some cannot handle things that make them uncomfortable. So it's getting censored. We're having to say things like code words. Oh yeah. In replacement of those words. In my opinion, what it does is it just perpetuates the issue surrounding the circumstancing involving those words.
Well, how are you ever going to learn to navigate those feelings and those circumstances if you can't even talk about it? If you can't even bring it up, if you can't even say a word, like how's that gonna work?
Yeah.
We're never gonna get anywhere as a society if we can't discuss those things that are, you know, hurting us or
Call it for what it is.
just having feelings.
Just
So
call it for what it is. It's my main thing. That's my soapbox.
your soapbox.
That's my little head talk.
He's done.
I could go on and on and on, but I don't want to offend anybody and get censored. So, why does grief haunt us? We rush grief because it makes others uncomfortable.
Death reminds us of what modern society avoids: loss, stillness, always on the go, 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 uncertainty, and lack of control. Death cannot be controlled because it can't be fixed, because it reminds us that we're not in control. We we distract, we medicate, we minimize. We say, be strong. They wouldn't want you to be sad. At least they lived a long life. Not because it helps, but because we don't know how to sit with grief. Ghosts don't come from death. They come from unacknowledged grief, from love and nowhere to go, from rituals that were never completed. Death rituals weren't about the dead. They were about keeping the living from being haunted. Grief doesn't produce anything. It doesn't fit in the schedules. It doesn't meet deadlines. It doesn't resolve neatly. Ancient cultures knew grief had seasons. Victorian society allowed years. Many cultures still honor anniversaries, altars, and remembrance days. But today, we expect people to return to normal, even though grief permanently changes what normal means. Death rituals began as acts of love. They weren't about fear. They were about remembering, about honoring, about staying connected. Maybe death feels terrifying now because we stopped giving it meaning. And maybe it isn't because the dead refused to leave, but because we forgot how to say goodbye. I don't know why that just made me like want to choke up. I don't know why. Well, this has been a Ghost Tracks podcast episode on death and its rituals and how they've changed over time. And maybe we need to bring back the rituals. And we'll catch you on the other side. Stay creepy, y'all. Bye. Bye.